this type of toy and setup is like one of the dopest ways of storytelling, carrying on an oral tradition. And if you choose to have kids, if you don't, that's something else that you could pass on from your dad.
This week, we had an opportunity to speak with Anica McKesey. She is an insurance agent where we talked about cartoons, movies, family, Al Capone's house in the Inland Empire, where to get a good steak in Rancho Cucamonga, along with donuts, different strategies of what you should ask for when you're looking for insurance and what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur. Thanks again for hanging out. Keep swinging, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below, and join us for more.
Be a podcaster with this.
You should.
I don't know what else to do with it though.
With what?
The mic.
Oh.
Like is that?
I'll help you.
I just slid it around.
Yeah, I'll help you right now.
I saw that part. It moves.
You saw that part? Everybody references that. Did you see that video?
I did.
Yeah. So, just be careful with that. I muted myself, and then I'm like, fuck, dude. Now we don't have shit.
That's funny. And then you don't even know that you're muted until after all of the recording, and you're like, oh,
exactly.
You can't hear anything.
You'll be taken care of.
Okay. I believe you.
So, 1, 2, 3. Get her done. Oh, man.
How you were just like curious and started researching and tinkering, and you got this whole like studio podcast set up.
Well, I love film.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on airplane mode. Okay, cool. So I love film.
Is that what I should do also?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want, it's just gonna, vibrate or ring or whatnot.
No, it's on silent.
Oh, let me take this off. If you're cold, let me know because I know it's cold in here right now.
I'll start sweating for anything. I run hot.
Yeah, so do I, especially with all these lights. All these lights are super hot, dude. Like very hot. But I was talking to my mom recently and just telling her like the things that I grew up with interest in. So, and it sounds stupid, but I love cartoons.
Oh my gosh, we were just talking about Saturday morning cartoons.
With who?
Like me and my husband. We were 80s kids. I don't know how old you are. I just realized that. But we like really grew up outside, and like we were talking about how with our teenagers, they're Xbox cell phone addicted. Like the only time we were really in front of a TV was TGIF and Saturday morning cartoons, and then maybe wrestling after.
What did you watch for cartoons?
A little bit of everything. Embarrassingly, I had a Scooby-Doo phase. I wanted to be like private investigator. Yeah, I didn't realize
that sounds like Yoda. No, that wasn't Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I'm not. Yes,
There you
that's Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
Yes.
I got
I
it.
didn't realize they were all high at the time, which probably would have still worked for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scooby-Doo. And then I had like, I think everybody kind of had like the Flintstones flashback, but the Jetsons flash forward, which was super cool too. And then I did have like a Gem, He-Man, She-Ra.
Oh, okay,
kind
okay.
of. I've always loved superheroes in general.
Yeah.
But you name it, whatever has come on TV as 80s kids, I feel like we watched it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like for me, cartoons remind me of my childhood. It's time with my dad, time with my brothers. My dad would watch X-Men with us. Like he would love to sit down and just watch X-Men. He'd watch Batman with us or Spider-Man. And so Batman,
Yeah, I
Batman.
love it.
We used to watch Rocky movies. My mom has been an entrepreneur for years, ever since I was a kid. And so my dad had a 9 to 5. And when she needed to go out and, do her business, it's like babysitting time with my pops. And so the three of us would sit on the couch with him and just watch movies. So now we still talk about movies. We still talk about like what shows he's watching, or like he's gotten into anime now.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Your dad is pretty versatile for his generation.
He is. He's like, hey, I'm watching this Vinland or Vineland. Basically, it's an anime Viking show, and
Wow.
so he's like, I'm on season two, and I'm critiquing it, and I think I would be a good I don't know what is it critic of cartoons and stuff like, and so
That sounds like a dope ass job though.
mhm,
Because when you think about like the generations of Simpsons
yeah,
and then like everything your dad is probably seen,
hmm
that's pretty cool.
it's I love talking to my dad. I love talking to my dad, my mom, and so like this podcast stuff, it's all that from childhood. Where as an adult now, they're toys,
Mm-hmm.
toys that I can afford that are expensive toys. But then it's where cartoons, music, film, like watching film and watching aesthetics. Like when I watch a movie, I'm looking for color grade, I'm looking
Mm.
for sound, I'm looking for these things where people are like, dude, you're not watching it. You're like, you're analyzing it. I'm like, that's how my mind
Mm.
works.
But that's still watching it. It's just
Yeah,
from a different
from a
lens.
different lens. I took photography in high school. My brothers were my models, and I would take photography. And
I
so
love it.
I think part of this whole thing of putting everything together was just leaning into something that I've enjoyed and not caring what others say about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have kids?
mm-mm,
Do you
no
want
kids.
kids?
I think now I'd be okay with them, but for a very long time, no kids. Like, I
Okay.
don't, like, it's like, I love my freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I love my freedom, the ability to leave the office at 11 and not be worried about having to go home, or tomorrow my first appointment's at 9 a.m., which means
Mm.
I need to be here at 8, which
Mm-hmm.
means I'll probably be here maybe all day. So
Wow.
I get the ability to play with my toys.
Yeah.
And my toys are things like this.
I only ask because this type of toy and setup is like one of the dopest ways of storytelling and of like carrying on an oral tradition. And if you choose to have kids, if you don't, it's like that's something else that you could pass on from your dad. That I guess today I'm your kid in a professional setting. Like just sharing the storytelling though.
It's people are interesting, man, and they don't
Yeah.
give themselves credit. That's
That's
the
like the understatement of life.
Yeah, people are smart, caring, they have good hearts. But someone was asking me on a TikTok live yesterday. They said, "Hey, do you only talk to business professionals? Like, I'd love to chit chat with you." And I said, "No, like, that's not what my podcast is about. That's not what I'm about. I'm not trying to pull certain things out with an ulterior motive. It's to
Mhm.
say I'm interested in people, and
Mhm.
people have a story to tell. It may resonate with some, it may resonate with others. It may not resonate with anybody, but I had a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And so storytelling, my dad's a great storyteller. He's hilarious. He says his same stories over and over. Um,
In true dad fashion.
like I've heard this already.
Right.
Um, and so with you, obviously, I think that you have a wealth of knowledge, obviously in your field as a
Yeah.
friend. Um, but that's why I said, no, what? Like people got to get out of their comfort zone. Whoever wants to get out of their comfort zone, they're going to sit with me. We're going to chit chat. And it's just a conversation that's just being recorded. That's all it is.
Yeah.
We could be sitting with, outside with a cup of coffee, chit chatting. It gets recorded. All of a sudden, there's clippable moments within it.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people, I think, start this journey, I guess, with an intent, like a business intent.
Mhm.
I don't have any business intent. Not for me, at least. I'm doing
Yeah.
it because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then if something comes out of it, great. But that's not the intent. So,
I think that's how most business endeavors kind of start. Like it is the business at first on some level in some sense. And then after that it becomes this is who I am. This is my personality. This is what I like. And I found a way to incorporate it into what I actually do.
mhm.
And I know in all the conversations I have, I'm like, you're gonna learn that Anika's a little quirky and different,
You
and
are.
I tell it how it is.
You are. Yeah.
Like I can be pretty nerdy and introspective, but we all have different facets of ourselves, and this space is super cool where you can explore that with people.
It's just uh creativeness,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, like I gotta get out of my day to day. My day to
Mhm.
day is numbers, people, conversations, puzzles, but I have a need to express myself artistically, like my tattoos, the way I dress, you know, dancing, art, video. It's important to me. And so, you know, some people vibe with it, some don't. And at the end of the day, I think I've learned that you can't make everybody happy and you're not going to work with everybody.
Mm. That is so
And you have
true.
to find peace with that. You
Yeah.
have to find peace with that. And what I always say, it's like if I have, which I do, but not boasting, but just saying true things. If I have 200,000 followers across all social media platforms and just 1% doesn't like me, that's a lot of people that don't like me. I don't know 200,000 people in in real life, but
Yeah.
that's what's across all my social media. And then if I was focusing on that 1% that provides negative comments and I was
Mm.
not confident in myself and who I am and what I'm doing in life, it would eat me up. But I focus on the other 99%, the cheerleaders, the supporters, the people that appreciate my stuff.
Yeah.
Um, it's like you can have 10 positive things going on, but something bad happens, like people dwell on it. You got to learn to let go. You got to learn to let go, move on.
Yeah.
You did what you could, and then you move on to, providing solutions, but it's easier said than done. Granted, it's easier said than done. Um, in your space for your job, do you have things that fall apart? Like,
The insurance industry is falling apart right now.
yeah,
That's why I laugh because it's a shit show. Like,
yeah.
and I've said probably at some point every day this year, if not multiple times, that this one year, 2023, has been more upside down and weird and unexpected and just a number of unknowns in that I'm figuring out a lot of puzzles in this one year than I have in my entire 17-year career.
Why do you think that is?
It is the conflation of a lot of problems, I think. Um, well, I started in the last recession, so it's not like I haven't seen shit shows before, right?
Yeah.
But this year in particular, it's a lot of things coming to a head. During the pandemic, there were no rate increases for insurance rates. Most industries were pretty much flatlined because everybody's at home. Insurance, in particular, people aren't driving. The state of California mandated that insurance companies give refunds
Oh, really?
because people weren't driving. Some got more size. It was in proportion to the premium that you pay. So some got more sizable premiums than others, but or refunds rather of their premiums. But that entire time, people are still driving. Granted, not as much as they would normally if they're commuting, but insurance companies are not collecting the same amount of premium during that time. But accidents are still occasionally happening.
Right.
And when they're happening, they are far more severe because people, it's like, what, 5 cars on the road during the
Okay,
pandemic?
okay, okay.
And a lot of fatalities, a lot of devastating accidents. So insurance companies still have to pay out. And to them, it's kind of like the end of the world if they are paying out more money than they're taking in,
Sure.
because it's ultimately a business at the end of the day. So that's one factor is recovering from the pandemic. The insurance company response to that is to immediately raise rates, right? Nobody likes that. The other side of that is that even before the pandemic, half of Californians were driving uninsured. Half. Yeah.
I should stop driving then.
Okay, George. After the pandemic, though, I would say that number has gone up even more because now rates are going up and there's a lot more restrictions where insurance companies are trying to crack down on fraud.
Mm,
So you can't really use someone else's address for a lower rate.
mm.
And there's a number of other ways that's the most common and the first one that comes to mind, but that aspect of it for the auto insurance side. Property insurance, our state is on fire at any given point. Like California is known for its fires.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I say it all day, every day, but we haven't even started fire season, and there have already been something like 980, close to 1,000 wildfires that have already happened in our state. So when you think about the devastation that happens after a wildfire, the insurance company is paying to rebuild a home. They are paying all of the contents inside, and they are paying for that family to have somewhere to stay while they take care of all of that. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So consumers are seeing rates double, triple, and sometimes they become uninsured because they've had too many claims or they've had too many losses. So all of that is coming to a head right now.
Well, thank you for explaining that because I've been getting quotes from clients and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, wait, what? Your payment is triple what I saw, let's say 2 years ago, right? But at least double, at
Yeah.
least doubled.
And that's not even what it was compared to like 5 or 8 years ago.
Right.
Like the days of telling people, "Oh, it's $50 a month as an estimate for home insurance."
Mm.
Yeah, those days are long gone. Even $100 a month is not really realistic.
So this is one thing, right? Obviously, I'm a lender, and every time I do a quote, um, I'm not trying to make things look pretty. That's not my job.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to convince you to buy a house. That's not my job.
Mhm.
As much as agents will say it, lenders will say it, sales coaches will say it, like how to sell. It's like, no, dude. Like I know how to sell, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna make the numbers look pretty and then put it on the insurance agent to figure out how the hell you get the payment to $50 a month.
Mhm.
Builders are notorious for that.
Oh yeah.
So when I look at a builder's estimate, they will put $60 a month. And then they'll say, hey, George, but your payment's $200 more per month. Well, it's 0.35%, which is the industry standard that we are required to use. So I'm using that dollar amount. Now, if you bring me a lower quote, then your payment will be adjusted. But again, an insurance agent is saying that $60 a month, it's not realistic. Not to say that it won't happen, but it's just not realistic.
It's
Unless you're
not.
having discounts, unless you're doing bundles, unless you're doing like career, unless you're increasing like career discounts, unless you're doing uh, like a really high deductible, maybe, but it's not realistic though.
It's not. And
I win. It's so
yes,
messed
you
up. It's so
win.
messed up that competition who we compete against as lenders for like what feeds my family.
Yeah.
I'm competing against people that are just blatantly lying.
Yeah.
And how do you get that out of the consumer's head to understand that, dude, it's not going to be $60 a month. I don't sell insurances. I don't get anything from it. But they're telling you it's 60. I know it's probably going to be 150, 175. You're in a high fire brush zone. You need a California Fair Plan wraparound policy
Ugh,
like
that's like a bad word.
the California Fair Plan.
Yeah.
So,
We'll come back to that.
yeah, well, I'd like to know a little bit more about insurance so I don't keep getting pissed off at these quotes that I keep receiving. Um, But that makes sense though, right? That makes sense where insurance companies, due to inflation, due to the pandemic, due to maybe more severe accidents in the policies that they're paying out, and the fire that continues to happen in California, that they're higher. That completely makes sense. Sometimes I don't hear that specific answer or that detailed of an answer, which irritates me. Which
Oh
means it's
yeah.
like Oh, it just went up. Well, why did it go up? Help me understand it. I'm very
especially as
analytical.
much as it went up too.
Yes.
It's so there's a couple other factors too you have to consider when you're dealing with new construction. If you get a quote from a builder, builders have made it a part of their business to also sell insurance and to do it wholesale on a more massive level, just like how they're building homes. So when you get an insurance estimate from a builder, chances are it's going to be a wholesale provider, all the same company, cookie cutter type of policy. It might have a higher deductible that might be a percentage as opposed to an actual dollar amount. But at the end of the day, they're doing a wholesale type of insurance policy to get a lower rate for their clients.
So you mean like a monopoly?
In
Kind
a
of.
in a sense, I don't know that it would be. It's more like,
They get discounts because they're providing, let's say, 500 homes directly to that insurance company versus one transaction, not a monopoly. The monopoly would be the other side, which is, let's say, like the lending side and whatever.
well, close to a monopoly. I can't think of the exact word, but in the sense that the builder and the insurance company are in cahoots. There's only like 1 degree of separation between these owners at
Hmm.
the end of the day, right? But the catch, though, is that built into these wholesale policies after year one, maybe after year two, that's when the rate doubles. And that's when the
Oh,
homeowner really has no choice but to shop and get a different policy because then they catch on.
right.
They've already bought the home, signed all the paperwork, gotten the policy for a year or two, but that rate increase is a shock.
Yeah.
It happens all the time with new construction. Outside of new construction, though, I don't think that insurance agents on a whole are honest about the rate increases in the same fashion I've been honest about, because there's a huge turnover in our industry. Like, if you talk to someone, there's like a 50-50 chance they have an insurance license or sold insurance at one point in their life. But having the experience and the tenure to be able to explain the differences in in location, in coverage, in, just the type of policy a client might need is is important, and that's the piece that's missing. You can't call the way the insurance market is, especially this year in particular, you can't call an 800 number and think that you're going to get an explanation for why XYZ policy is whatever rate it is. And you can see that on a massive scale with Geico closing all of the retail offices in California. State, I call them the states and the farms. Let's all State Farm, and Farmers have pretty much paused all new business policies in California. And that's because they can't increase the rates enough to compensate for the losses that are happening in our state. And that disconnect means that insurance companies are leaving at the end of the day.
That's what I've been told as well, that a lot of insurance companies are just not, I don't know if they're like blatantly saying it, um, but more or less like it's kind of like pricing themselves out of the market, or at
Mhm.
least like for example on my side, on the lending side, sometimes a loan product will be available, but they don't really want it, so they will just make it really expensive. And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, you can get it, but we're charging you this much, and it's like, well, then you really don't want it then.
Exactly.
But on the fact that they're leaving this state, like that has been a specific thing that's been told to me. Like, yeah, they're just gone, dude. Like they just don't want to do business in California. Um, so what you just said, those four things make total sense to me logically. Obviously, being in my business, I've seen it,
Mhm.
and then it better helps me convey that to consumers when I'm having the conversation about. I mean, I don't want to have conversations about like policies, but I think that in our business we have to support each other, right? So I'm not going to cross a particular boundary, like as far as the agent is concerned, and certain things that maybe I shouldn't say as a lender versus a realtor. But in general, I can give you some advice, or I
Yeah,
can give you a better idea of what's going on. In general, the same thing with insurance. This is why this and this happened versus, I don't know.
exactly. And it's the same vice versa, right?
Hmm.
You're not necessarily going to talk about, a water damage claim that a client has had in their loss history that is now affecting their rate. That's my job. In the same sense, I'm not going to talk about interest rates and what is
Why not?
required to qualify for a conventional versus, like, it's just not, that's not what I
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
like, you have an insurance policy, I have a mortgage. We know the questions to ask, but that's where the professionals come in and we kind of pass the baton.
It's what you said where you call an 800 number, you can't get an answer, or you can't get something. It's part of well, let's again on my side, right? Blanket policies. I don't know if that works on your side, but if you work for certain financial institutions, you don't necessarily need to have a license because you're licensed under the corporate umbrella. There's maybe internal testing that you need to take um, to quote unquote become a loan officer. And
Mhm.
so people who work at banks could have been a teller, right? Let's say 3 months ago. Um, and now they're a full-fledged loan officer.
Mhm.
And I understand where that loan officer is. The beginning of their career, they're trying to make things work. I've been there. Um, but there's a big difference between that teller who just became a loan officer and myself, and the knowledge and what I have in my back pocket.
Mhm.
Consumers don't know that.
Yeah.
So when you're calling or you're maybe shopping for brokers, or I don't know how it would be for the insurance side, it's to say, I need to talk to someone who can really explain it to me versus someone who's, at the end of the day, an order taker, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, we always joke, the lender that's only selling rate, for example, just interest rate, hey, I have the lowest rate. Like, the joke is that lender should always ask, do you want fries with that? Like, because you're an order taker.
Yeah.
Versus explaining to clients, look, there are these different options. What are your tax deductions behind each different
Yeah.
option? Short-term and long-term goals, financial strategies to help that family move forward. The person that doesn't know that, they're not going to be able to help you with it. Now, you as a consumer are technically the expert, and you're having to make a choice without a proper explanation.
It's the same thing in insurance. Oh my goodness. Because the 800 number that you call, and it's weird though. It is a little bit different in the sense that to talk about insurance in California, you do need to have a license. That's a test, continuing education. But when you call the 800 number, not only are you an order taker, but the way California economics is set up, the 800 number, chances are, isn't in California. You've got all kinds of exceptions, all kinds of exclusions, all kinds of everything going on here. So when you call that 800 number and you have the order taker who is responsible for anywhere from 25 states to all of them, and they don't know the exceptions of California, then it's really going to hurt you in the end. Because it's not just about price, it's about coverage. And there's a lot of specifics that the order taker, or and a lot of brokers these days too, just don't know. Like, if I'm looking at, like, I was just looking at a home in Rancho that I'm getting ready to insure, built in, I want to say it was like 77, 78. 70s are kind of gray. Maybe it has like a concrete slab that is the foundation. Maybe there's a crawl space underneath. If there's a crawl space underneath, then that is going to determine like the plumbing and a whole other can of worms. I'm looking at the roof, it's not in the best condition, and I can tell that from the pictures on Google. So
Yeah.
all of that comes into play in insurance, where maybe you got the cheapest rate today, but then that company cancels you in 30 days because they did an inspection. The order taker isn't going to know any of that, and they're not going to know what company to guide you to that is going to provide coverage without, red tape and a possible cancellation.
And there's also underwriting. obviously, on the
Yeah.
insurance side, right? So,
Yeah.
which means you can fund a transaction, close the loan, they do the inspection a month later. Hey, there's something here that we can no longer insure your property.
Yeah.
Um, so I've seen that happen. Um, so I want to go back to California Fair Plan.
Okay.
Help me understand, help everyone understand what the California Fair Plan is and why is it there?
So the California Fair Plan is an entity that exists separate from the state government, but it is there for the residents of California who cannot find insurance without them. And what that typically looks like is you are in such a high wildfire or brush area that no one wants to insure you. So there was a fire last year in your neighborhood, or people are still receiving payouts from a fire that has recently occurred. So no insurance company wants to take on additional risk in that area. That is one of the more common reasons why. The other reason that has since come about that I've noticed is that homeowners who have filed more than one claim are not able to find insurance these days. Homeowners claims are not like car insurance claims. You can't be like, "Oh, it wasn't my fault."
Did I
Or
do that?
yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. Um, you don't want to file claims unless you absolutely have to on a home insurance policy. Like your entire home burned down and you have no choice but to file a claim. That is when you file a claim. And a lot of consumers don't quite get that concept because if your water heater bursts and water damage causes the need for like maybe some floors to be replaced or some drywall, or you just need a new water heater, that's not the time to call the insurance company and file a claim. It seems intuitively, it seems like, oh, this is something my home insurance should cover.
Yeah,
But what ultimately happens is that claim follows you for 3 years with some companies, up to 7 years with other companies. And then if something more major happens, like you have real water damage where your roof needs to be replaced and an entire room needs to be redone or something more extreme, those two claims together make you uninsurable. So you never want to file claims for the small stuff. But the homeowners who have filed two claims um, and cannot get insurance from the traditional insurance company have to go through the California Fair Plan. And what it is a basic bare bones policy designed to only cover fire because it initially started out of all of the wildfires in our state. And it tends to be quite expensive, even though it's only covering fire. And so the way insurance companies saw dollar signs is they've created a wraparound policy. And it's for the consumer as well, because you need coverage outside of just fire.
sure.
Um, Theft, vandalism, random acts of God. Like I had one client where a tree like was dying on the inside and fell on her house. Stuff like that is going to happen. That's why you have insurance. And so all of the traditional insurance companies created the wraparound policy. It's called the difference in conditions, but that is truly the only way to make the California Fair Plan a whole policy that covers you for everything like a traditional insurance policy. That rate, however, when you add the California Fair Plan rate with the difference in conditions rate, ends up being double, triple, quadruple what people are used to seeing.
Oh, oui. I agree. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot. So, um, the funny part is maybe it's not funny though, but
but we still laugh. You
well,
have
of
to.
course, I gotta laugh. I was so pissed off at something yesterday, and I was telling someone, I mean, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm gonna laugh
Seriously.
about it, right? So, but A lot of places right now, it's like, oh, it's in a high fire brush area. I'm like, wait, what? How? How is this a high fire zone area? It's what comes up on the system now, right? And so not only is it the higher policy, obviously because of the initial things that you went through,
Hmm.
um, but now they need that wraparound policy, and
Yes.
it'll be $1,000, $2,000. I'm like, plus the other insurance.
The other 1,000 or 2,000, and
Yes.
together you're looking at $4,000 for insurance. Like, it doesn't even make sense when you tell people,
Yeah.
but that's the reality of it. Like, if you're in that situation,
Hmm. So, and
it's
it
rough.
affects obviously someone's ability to purchase a home,
Hmm.
right? If I'm already budgeting the 0.375, for example, or no, 0.35, um, but this amount is again zero point 0.9, or it's just a crazy amount, and I'm already tight on expense ratios.
Hmm.
How am I supposed to know you're looking in a high fire area? The client doesn't know either. The
Yeah.
agent doesn't know either, right? The realtor. Certain areas inherently have that high risk. You're in the forest, I
Yeah.
got you. Like you're in the mountains, I got you. Um, but if you're in the desert now, you're going to tell me that in the desert there's a high fire brush area? What are you talking about? There's tumbleweeds. How is that a higher fire? What is it? Hold on. Tongue twister. Fire brush area.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm not an insurance agent. I roll with the
Well,
punches. It is what it is.
on a very basic level, though,
All of California.
it is all of California. That's
Yeah.
what ultimately is happening. But to get even more basic, just think about fires. The fire spreading doesn't care if it's a tumbleweed and dirt or if it's trees and vegetation. Either way, it's still going to burn.
Burn, baby, burn.
Literally.
Disco.
Like, and the desert might actually burn a little bit faster. And this is, I'm not a science person, but the desert might burn faster just because it's drier, it's hot. There isn't as much, like there isn't trees and vegetation to burn through.
Yeah.
Like it's literally just dirt and the fire is spreading. Either way though, it's the entire state. Like there's no I used to feel like there was more rhyme and reason like maybe 10 years ago. Like if it was well, of course, if there had just been a fire in your area, then that makes sense. But if we're talking like 10 years ago, maybe like Arrowhead,
Hmm.
Big Bear area, like that's a high fire area.
I would agree. Yeah.
If we're talking like there were a couple of large fires in Chino Hills. So it made sense back then. But now because we've had so many acres of land burn in California and companies have taken so many losses, most of California is a high fire area. It's just a matter of which company is willing to take on the risk in that area. So some companies, like especially the ones that have pulled out, like Allstate or State Farm, they took on too much risk in certain areas. So even if it's not a high fire area, they don't want to take on any more homes to be insured in that area because if that whole neighborhood, God forbid, goes out, they're on the hook for everybody.
Right.
That's too much of a risk in that area. And because there's so many areas like that for a lot of the larger companies, it just makes more sense to be done, which sucks for us. I mean, I live here too. So it's like, that's,
So you're saying you're my neighbor?
we're all neighbors.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's that all makes sense though. So like as a consumer, when you're getting insurance, what are three tips that
Three.
yeah, up there. What are three tips that you can give a consumer like when they're shopping for an insurance policy? Like what should you be looking for?
There's a few things.
You can say 10 if you want.
I don't know if there's 10.
Okay.
But I would say the easiest way to start is with a broker, an
Okay.
insurance broker, not someone who's going to charge you for every phone call, not someone who has a fee built into everything. Um, of course I'm biased, but I do strongly believe the best insurance brokers are paid by the insurance companies. So the consumer doesn't pay anything to the actual agent if they have, like their escrow account set up to pay for their insurance. The broker is going to tell you, a good one is going to tell you out the gate, this home is going to be difficult to insure. I'm going to have to do some digging. I don't know. Like, and instantly, as an insurance agent, instantly if the home is going to be difficult or not. And I feel like that is probably the most pivotal point, because before you completely fall in love with the home, before you start, picturing where you're going to put furniture and what's going to happen, like you can't wait. It's not the good old days where you can wait until day 58 and think that you're going to get insurance in 2 days. Like
Yeah.
it's not going to work like that. The second you think that a home is an option, you need to call an insurance broker and make sure that it's feasible in insurance world, right? Then from there, you have to really think about what you love about this home and the coverage that should be included in the policy. So that's a more extensive conversation. Does this home have a swimming pool that you really love? Or has the kitchen been entirely redone with, like, I don't know, top of the line appliances? And that part of the conversation is super important, because it's not about purchase price in California. The amount that we list in the insurance policy is almost never going to match the purchase price, because you're paying for land in the California zip code, right? When you buy a home. When it comes to the insurance, though, you want to make sure that, God forbid, that home burns up tomorrow, we can rebuild everything just the way you like it, just the way you signed up for it, and you won't miss a beat.
Is that what it's called, the replacement cost?
Yes.
Okay. So
So,
that's why if you're buying, like, for example, like a $600,000 home, maybe the replacement cost, and I'm just throwing a random number out here, but let's say the replacement cost is 400,000.
yes.
So it's like 200,000 in land, for example, then
Mhm.
400,000 of actual property to rebuild that for you.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good
Smart.
analogy. Especially in California, people don't make that connection. And so it's not that you're not insuring the home properly or you're underinsured or anything like that. We have to use a replacement cost calculator based on the cost of labor and materials in the zip code for what it would take to rebuild the home. And then we go based on replacement cost coverage, because if there's another pandemic tomorrow and the cost of labor and materials skyrocket, you want to have that cushion built in where, in your example, even though we're insuring the home for 400,000, we have an extra cushion of 25, 35, sometimes 50% to make sure we can really rebuild the home in COVID times,
Yeah,
or if it's the whole neighborhood and there's a surge for parts and labor and whatnot. So
that makes sense.
the coverage is super important. And then kind of farther down the list, I would say, you just have to be realistic. If I have a range of quotes that from different companies that is, I don't know, maybe 1,500 to 2,500, you can't just take the one that's 1,500 just because it's the cheapest. You have to think about, the coverage. You have to also think about the deductible. The deductible is really important too. A lot of people think just make it as high as we can so that it can meet my numbers. That's like the worst thing you can do, because after people close escrow, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm my own worst client, right? After
Aren't we
you
all?
after you close escrow, nobody thinks about their home insurance.
Yeah,
You don't think about it until, like, your home is like on fire and you're like, "Oh crap, like what do
yeah.
I do now?" So you want to make sure that that deductible is a number you're comfortable with. A lot of times I see percentages that makes me cringe, because if your entire home burns down, you're willing to take on 2%, 5% of that loss
Yeah.
before your insurance kicks in? That's crazy. And then some people also, on the flip side, some people are like, "Oh, I want a $500 deductible. I don't want anything higher than that." That's going to make your rate ridiculous. Like, and you shouldn't be filing a claim for anything less than 5,000 isn't something worth filing a claim over, because you're going to pay that on the back end when your insurance rate doubles for the next 3 years. So that is super important to think of too. Some people are getting more used to the concept of like a $2,500 deductible, but you can't go too low and you can't go too high.
I think my takeaway from asking that question about the three recommendations is there has to be a consultative approach to the way you insure your home. Um, you have to meet with someone who's a professional, meet with someone who's going to ask you questions about what's important to you about the home and the coverage that you want, and then give you recommendations and solutions around your budget and the solutions that you're trying to accomplish, which is very different than calling an 800 number, getting a quote online.
Very different.
And granted, there is that easy solution of lower payment, minimal policy, high deductible. Obviously,
Mm,
there's that quick solution. But I don't know, the example I would use or the analogy I would use is adulting. Adulting requires time invested in figuring out the best solutions, and what you might do now might not be best for you 5 years down the line.
mhm.
And so, too many of us, I think, are pushing the limit on our payments, right? Like, and what I mean by that is qualifications, right? So if your lender tells you you can go to this amount, they're right there with it. They're like 500,000, 501,000. And the thing is, it's not just clients, it's realtors.
Mhm.
I'll give a realtor an approval and I will tell them their maximum is 600,000. I will get so many calls, texts, and it's like, can they go to 605? Can they go to 606 or can they go up? What the? No, stop.
Yeah.
Like you have to, as a professional, as an agent, you have to be able to put your foot down. Your lender already told you what they qualify for. But if that realtor, let's say relationship, it's a new relationship, and maybe they don't have a preferred agent that they work with, um, you're also setting up the insurance person for failure because insurance rates have also gone up.
Mhm.
And now, if the insurance agent gets the payment that we want, let's say to make the person qualify, for example, well, now we set up the client for failure with a high deductible or improper coverage. And then it goes back to the consumer. Personal responsibility, stop shopping outside your budget.
Yeah.
So everybody, I think, we all have different responsibilities to play. But the important part for me is just like as an agent should have their buyer consultation to really figure out more or less where they need to be at. We have our buyer consultation. I had one today that lasted quite a bit of time. They had a lot of questions. I enjoy that because I rather have that conversation up front.
Mhm.
It's not pretty. It's definitely not pretty. I don't try to make it pretty. I try to make it optimistic but realistic. Um, but setting up that conversation and proper expectations from the agent, the lender, the insurance side helps that client be successful. And then I can sleep comfortably at night. Like, I don't want to assume, damn, did I do the right thing? Like, I never feel that way in my head with the clients I
Yeah.
work with. Why? Because I'm building up so much up front. Um, so yes, consultative approach, hire a broker, right?
Mhm.
What do you want to cover on the house? What's important to you? Um,
And the
and the
deductible.
deductible.
The important part of what you said also too,
Everything was important that I said.
everything was important.
Very important.
For the consumer though, as a consumer, you want to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Like all of that, all of, the puzzle pieces, the adulting, everything that we're trying to do, right? Like provide for our families, live in a nice crib. Like all of this stuff is important, but at the end of the day, you don't want to be stressed out about what happens if I can't make this payment?
Yeah.
What happens if I can't pay my insurance deductible?
Well, the thing is, I think for a lot of people, COVID was a slap in the face of a reality of what life really is. Nothing is guaranteed, and it can be taken away just like that. Obviously, death does that,
Mhm.
illness, accidents. But I think for everybody across the board, the majority of people, it's like, remember when you thought your job was secure and you've been there for 20 years? Look how easily it went away. Look how easily it went online, or remotely.
Yeah.
Um, and this is nothing you did. This is
Mhm.
nothing technology did. This
Mhm.
is a sickness that came and we all kind of went through it. So understand that you should have reserves. Understand that you should have a savings account. Understand that you should live below your means, not within your means, and definitely not beyond your means.
Mhm.
Um, and really, really look at your finances.
Yeah.
Um, be responsible. Like people depend on you. That's part of what I think about all the time. Choices, decisions, and instant gratification type things that may make me feel good. I'm having
Mhm.
such a hard time right now, dude. Such a hard time right now buying a car. The most difficult time. I need to buy a car. I need to.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't want to buy the damn car. I don't want to buy the damn car. I haven't had a car payment for maybe 7 years.
I love it.
But
No
my
car payments.
I'm starting to have a difficult time with that damn car. It's starting to break down.
Mhm.
Um, but I know that if I go buy a car where my monthly payment is 1,500 and I get the car that I'm like, oh, I'm happy, dude. Like I could pay this, whatever. But what if one day
Yeah.
life decides to be life?
Mhm.
Because life will always be life.
It's life in.
Exactly. We be lifing. And I have an issue now with the $1,500 car payment. I saw a 19-year-old client's credit report. Okay, she's 20 now, 19 at the time, $800 car payment.
Mm.
She makes, what do you think she makes?
I'm afraid.
Okay. She
At
makes,
19.
guess,
Mm. 50,000.
not even.
I
Not even.
tried. I tried, guys.
Not even. Less than 30,000, right? You make less than 30,000 and you're,
She doesn't pay for the roof over her head.
of course. So
Yeah.
what does $800 do to your buying power, your ability to purchase something? But I've made those mistakes. At her age, my car payment was 1,200, right? But at her age, I was making a lot of money. So I've been in this industry, since then. Doesn't Was I able to get something out of my system? Oh, absolutely. Like I was able
Oh,
to,
yeah.
I
You
got
have
that.
to at that age,
Yeah, I got
right?
it out of my system.
If you don't get it out then, it'll be way worse later.
But it's to say, where is your income level? Stop living beyond your means.
Yeah.
Um, I had to learn that. I had to humble myself. I've lost a lot of things in life, and I had to understand that all I need is, roof over my head, food in my belly, and relationships. That's all that matters. Everything else, like the watches, the jewelry, whatever it is that you pamper yourself with, and if you pamper yourself with the car, fantastic. That's what you're working towards. Great. But be reasonable.
Yeah.
And a lot of us aren't because it's so easy to just go to a dealership and give me a pay stub and I'll approve you. And here you can walk away with a $60,000 debt, you know?
Well, and the times too, like that instant gratification, social media,
Like
like
what we're doing right now. Oh my God.
I'd like to think this is a little different, but the instant gratification of it all, like you
Yeah.
have to, and I think if you've lived long enough, you've made mistakes and you've lost a lot of stuff to be able to know. It's kind of like you don't know the true light until you've seen the dark,
Hmm.
right? But at the same time, it's like we also, especially in California, have to be realistic with the fact that like a budget is necessary and real, and I don't think a lot of people are on that page as much as I would have hoped after a pandemic. Like there are still a lot of people who didn't grasp a lot of those or have taken on the idea that like, hey, you only live once, right?
YOLO.
Right? But it is those difficult conversations that people have to have that can be lengthy. I'm with you. I love the people who ask me questions because at least I know on the front end, they're thinking, they're wondering, they're trying to be proactive versus I say all day long, I would hate for you to call me and be like, Anika, why didn't you tell me X? I would much rather answer all of the what if questions. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of the what if
Yeah.
questions so that people are informed and that they know what they're getting themselves into because that's the only way to like function and truly be able to sleep at night. If not, you're just throwing the dice.
Um, I agree with you 100%. I think it was taught to me very early on that there are certain things in your business that are very predictable, certain things that you know that are going to happen, and certain questions that are going to happen.
Mhm.
And that's for any business, right? So, a clothing company, it's, like issues with the warehouse, issues with the materials. When are the clients going to receive it? Is there an email going out? You
Yeah.
can think about that. With restaurants, waiting times, for example, food costs go up. Like
Mhm.
my mind, and I think a lot of people's mind is um, in that analytical sense. And I think most of us that look at things that way are successful. And successful doesn't necessarily mean a lot of money. For some people, yes. For some people, no.
Yeah.
But successful to the degree that you can sleep at night and that you're being a good, I like this. Kevin used it the other day. A good steward with your time, a good steward with your money,
Mm.
with whatever blessings that you've been given. But some are not analyzing and digging deep enough. A gentleman that I met with right now that had a lot of questions,
Mhm.
great questions. I asked him, "How much do you think you make? How much do you make per month?" Um, he said around 6,000. I showed him he's making nearly 14,000 a month. He's like,
Oh,
"What?"
he makes me happy.
And so I said, "Look, I get where you're coming from, right? I
Mhm.
understand the numbers that you came up with, but I always want to understand where is this person's mindset? If
Mhm.
I'm going to help you get somewhere, a lot of it has to do with your mindset. And if
Mhm.
you're telling me you're making 6 when I know you're making 14, there's a disconnect here. There's a disconnect, there's a gap that I got to show you where your money's going,
Mhm.
right? Is it going to your retirement account? Is it frivolous spending? Okay, well, what does your savings look like? Like, are you actually putting this money away? And so I think a lot of times professionals are the ones that open up your eyes.
But I appreciate the people who are in that predicament
Hmm.
who potentially have the savings who are just being conservative and good stewards of their money versus the person who comes in and says that they make 14,000 and it's really 6,000 because
Yeah,
that's a much more difficult conversation where it's like actually.
I've had, you know what? Recently, I've had my experience has been that a lot of my clients right now feel that they're making a lot less. A lot. I had a gentleman in
Because it's not going as far.
correct. So now it's to show them, okay, well, like, and it's really, and it's really understanding like finances at a broader level, right?
Mhm.
That's like going back to the order taker scenario. You go to, a bank or a credit union, they're not going to discuss certain things that I'm going to discuss with my clients. And so your tax deductibility, right? As far as interest, what are you paying on rent? All these other areas of my job is to say, look, this is the real picture. At the end of the day, it's your mortgage,
Mhm.
it's your house, it's your responsibility, not mine. I'm not trying to convince you to do this, but I can show you that you can do it as long as like we shift a couple of these things.
Yeah.
Like maybe sell the sandrail, right? Sell the quads. Stop going out to dinner every single night. Like you can
Guilty
afford it.
pleasures.
You can afford it. But there's always a give and take. Right? There's always
Hmm.
a give and take. So
I'm
very
gonna
good. We're
choose
on the
to go
same
out to
page.
dinner. Just saying.
Where are you going to dinner tonight?
I don't know. It could be anywhere. I love food.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
What's
is
your
my
favorite food?
weakness. Um,
If you were on a deserted island, what would be the type of food, not a specific dish, what would be the type of
mhm.
food that you would eat if that was like you couldn't have anything else?
This question always makes me laugh only because if I were on a deserted island, I would be content with the seafood and like picking it out of the ocean. But
But did you not see Castaway?
yeah, I would probably be sick of it by the time I came back, like he was. Like whole yeah. Um, I really love Thai food.
Okay.
That's usually like me and my 14-year-old son, that's usually our go-to answer because my husband is not a fan of Thai food. So it's like,
What is he like?
ugh, everything that starts with we joke.
Uh-huh.
His favorite foods start with B. It is a burger,
I love
it is
burgers.
breakfast, and it is
Breakfast.
any type of burrito. So you could combine
Um,
the two, like a breakfast burrito. It could
burger?
be a chicken burrito. We haven't quite got to the burger
Burger
burrito, but
burrito.
I'm sure he's had it at this
Yeah.
point because that's the rotation in my house, those three.
Oh, I like burgers. I like
Yeah.
burgers. So what would you pick? Thai food?
I probably, mm, well, my family's from Belize,
Hmm.
Central America. So anything in the Central American region, I'm good. Like,
Okay. I
but
like that
Thai
one.
food is probably,
Second, like maybe if they gave it to you like once every 10 years, like you'd be looking forward to it
well, no,
like
I feel deprived because we live off burgers, burritos, and breakfast. So Thai food might be first, and then anything from Central America.
okay. Yeah, I'm down with that. Um, Thai food. I could do Thai food. Like if they said Central American food or Thai food, I'd probably pick Central American food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Familiar. It's very familiar. Um, and so that's what you're gonna eat this weekend? Central American food or Thai food?
No, I'm actually thinking more of like a ribeye for dinner.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a good like meat and potatoes kind of girl.
you're gonna grill it or what are you gonna do? You're gonna go somewhere?
Well, I haven't quite decided if I'm cooking tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You know
I
what?
haven't thought that far ahead, but ribeye sounds good.
Have you been to the Sycamore Inn?
No, but we were just talking about that this morning, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, tons of history there.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was. And I learned a whole bunch about the Etowanda Roadhouse too. They were talking about how that was like a stop on Route 66
Uh-huh.
and the owner used to teach people. I guess it's kind of and this is from the lady sitting at the table with me. Um Rancho was kind of a more Rancho Fontana area was more like Italian
Hmm.
way back when, and I supposedly the owner of the Etowanda Roadhouse used to teach people how to play poker,
Hmm.
and it was like a gathering spot for a lot of the Italians. We had a whole like cool mobster discussion after, um,
This random guy asked about Al Capone.
yeah, in his house and the C on the chimney to identify him. So
Yeah, the Al Capone story I've heard from childhood. And
yeah.
then it's funny because Diego sent me a text while, the guy was up there, and it's the actual history of the Al Capone house. I've read about it too.
So it
Um,
really was his house?
yeah, there are
Oh,
stories about that.
mhm.
Um, the chimney one I think is like obviously like a rumor, like like that would be kind of not a smart thing to do.
Yeah, big old
Uh,
target on your house.
yeah, but the when I remember reading on it that it was like they're trying to get away. Like
Mhm.
they're trying to get away. They're going to you know, Egypt, basically, you know.
Cuba. We visited his house in Cuba. There was a whole bunch of like
I mean, not
mobsters
Egypt,
who had.
Egypt. I'm talking about like Fontana being Egypt because it's so far away.
Oh, I s- I follow now.
Yeah. So yeah, there are stories about that. Like they talked about today at We Rep where they were doing the casinos, right?
Hmm.
At the Sycamore. So if you're talking about a steak, the Sycamore Inn is so dope.
I love it.
Um, and peppercorn
Okay.
steak. It
Is that the
is.
secret? When I make it at home, I don't feel like it's ever right. Like we didn't really grow up with red meat, so
Uh-huh.
I'm still experimenting, but
But how do you make your steak though? Like if you make a steak, how do you make it? Like where do you make it?
I am learning the stovetop. I'm not a griller per
Okay.
se. Like if it I'm pretty much stovetop and oven kind of chick. I don't do the fancy stuff. So really just salt and pepper and beating it a couple times, try to tenderize it, and then a good like sear on both sides. And then, you poke it so that it gotta love
Well,
my culinary terms today.
yeah.
But no, because you want it to be medium, but I don't like it when it's too bloody.
Uh-huh.
And yeah. And then maybe I'll stick it in the oven if I don't want it to be too well done
Yeah.
after I've seared both
Seared it.
sides.
Um, I've done the like that technique,
Hmm.
right? Um,
As elaborate as it is.
as elaborate as it is, just beating it, make sure it's not bloody.
I really can
Um,
cook, guys.
but the grilling
Grilling is
is
better.
just me personally, right? Like I've never been a grill person, but
Hmm.
Mike, my production partner, he got
Believer
me.
Mike?
No, no, no. But Believer Mike's dope. Believer Mike got me donuts.
Oh, that you.
Shout out to Cake Among Us in Rancho Cucamonga.
We all have to go there, but when you drop stuff on the ground in public,
Uh
sweetheart,
huh.
you can't, the 10-second rule doesn't apply. I'm sorry. Not in public.
But did I die though?
Okay. That's
But
what us 80s babies say.
did
But
I
did I
die though?
die?
It's
You're still here.
yeah. My mom would say that as a kid I would play in the mud, like, and that my grandma would be like, no, just let them, like, you'd be in your underwear and you just go outside and we just let you just get dirty. Like, we're not gonna, um, I mean, it's completely different, but, um, obviously it was good for the video and good for them. And
I'll play in the mud. I won't eat the mud though.
I probably ate the mud. I probably ate the mud. Um, yeah, but my bacon fell and I had to pick it up.
Yeah, I love some good bacon, just not on a public floor. It's okay.
But
You're
what's
still
the worst
here.
that could happen? Well, like what
So back to this ribeye though. When you make it, is it on the grill or is it in foil?
on the grill?
On the grill. Okay.
Yeah, on the grill. So I like using garlic oil,
Mm-hmm.
right, on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So garlic oil, and then I'll use um I mean, like, as far as like the salt and pepper, like, yeah, you obviously want to add salt and pepper, but then it's like, what other type of rub? Like, I basically want to rub on it.
Okay.
Um, I'll do some Cajun spices, so I'll
Okay.
have some Cajun spices and buttery garlic rub. Um,
Mm.
so the cool part that I experimented is just buying different rubs, coffee rubs, Cajun rubs, and so it's just all over the meat. So it has the garlic that's now starting to get into the meat, the garlic rub, high heat fire. So then,
Mm-hmm.
it's just leave it and don't touch it. I think
Okay.
that's where the mistake where a lot of people when they grill, and I see people grilling, it's they're constantly flipping the meat.
Mm.
You don't want to flip the meat more than
Pause.
once. You just want to let it sit. You want to let it sear. You want, the marks right on the steak, maybe 10 minutes, depending on how thick the meat is, and then flip it again. And now, if you want it a little bit more than, you throw it in a cast iron and put it in the oven.
Mhm.
Um,
Are you a medium guy as well?
a medium.
Okay.
Yeah, medium. I don't like it too bloody. Like if
Yeah.
it's too bloody, it's like I mean I could eat it, but no.
Yeah.
Like if you're cutting into your steak and there's just blood everywhere, it's like no.
Yeah. Well, and you have to let it rest too.
See, that's the other thing too, that meat actually cooks or it's still cooking while it's
Mhm.
resting. So if you cook, oh, I'm gonna do 15 minutes, then 15 minutes, and then
Ooh,
it's resting, it's like, dude, now
you killed it,
you
and
well
it's
done it.
yeah.
But if you do maybe 10 and 10, amazing. And it obviously it doesn't take long,
Yeah.
but yeah, doing it on the pan, it just doesn't come out the same. Doing it in the oven, it's more like for of a roast, you know.
Mhm.
But I like
Yeah, I'll have to
the grill.
grill. I've had seafood all week, so it's about time
Yeah,
for a
to do
ribeye.
steak, some squash like on the side, an onion, like veggies on the side, and then some shrimp on skewers. It's just
Mhm.
all lit up. In the meantime, in the kitchen, do some rice, maybe
So
some.
everyone's going to George's house for dinner.
Yeah, I know how to cook. I'm just lazy about it. I hate cooking. It takes too long,
I know,
but I
me
know how to cook.
too. Me too. I hear you. And then especially after a long day, it's like you don't want to be cooking for like an hour, hour and a half before you can actually enjoy your food.
Hmm.
You've already did your work for the day. So
Some people say that they find it relaxing, right, to cook.
sometimes I could see that.
I'm just like, no, dude, I want to eat. Like, it's not
Yeah.
relaxing. I want to eat.
Yeah, I used to find cooking relaxing, but now not so much. Maybe on the weekend, maybe if I'm craving something in particular that I want to make. But my husband is 6'2". My 14-year-old son is pretty much 6'2". They have debates.
I'm jealous.
They have
I wish I was
debates
6'2".
about who's taller at this point, and they're pretty stocky,
Yeah.
buff guys. So I say all that to say that they eat a lot. So food isn't the same in our house. Like
Have you had a
when
tomahawk steak?
I have
Oh, okay.
actually,
Have they had
yes.
a tomahawk steak? Maybe we
They're
should make
not
one for them. Oh,
they're not
they're
really
not.
steak guys.
Oh,
Like my son kind of, but he's 14. So I'm like, he's not really at the age where he can really truly appreciate a steak.
yeah.
He has to get a job first. I think that's when you really
You're
appreciate
like, oh
steaks.
yeah, exactly. I know that.
Oh, but yeah, so my relationship with food is very different. When we're peeling 5 pounds of potatoes for one meal, it doesn't always bode so well.
What's your son's favorite meal?
Um, he's my mini me. So we have nachos a lot.
Nachos.
Yes. Nachos are a go-to meal. And he's 14, so very much teenager kind of phase.
Whoops.
Yeah, a lot of nachos. He's really loving ribs these days too. He's just now venturing more into red meat. Um, and then he can always eat pasta. Always. He's a growing 14-year-old, like bottomless pit. So pasta and bread is what it is.
Maybe I'll have some spaghetti factory today. That sounds good.
Okay. Spaghetti is probably my least desired. That's
Me too.
their favorite. Really?
No, no, God, no. I hate Italian food. I hate Italian food. Italian food is the most flavorless food there is.
In America.
100%.
Oh my goodness.
Come at me. Um, I've
Yeah, go
l-
at him.
yeah, come at me. I've learned to like Italian food. Like meatballs. I love meatballs. I
Yeah.
can make really, really, really good meatballs. Like
Yeah.
big, fat, juicy Parmesan coming out meatballs, spicy. And I've learned how to make meatballs. Like my meatballs are dope. But my problem is pasta.
Mhm.
It and maybe I'm wrong, but pasta doesn't retain flavor. It's more or less like the sauces that you add to it,
Yes,
right?
very
Like, for
much
example,
so.
if you make rice
Mhm,
and you add sauce to it or you add some kind of condiments to it, the
mhm.
rice actually absorbs it. Versus pasta, it's like it needs to have
Um,
sauce. If you're just eating pasta, there's no flavor in that pasta. I've never, every
mm,
restaurant I've gone to, every time I've tried pasta, unless it's drenched in sauce, there's little to no flavor in the actual noodle itself.
yeah, yes and no, because it very much depends on who's making it too. Like, I feel like I've had better I'm not really a pasta person in
Mhm.
general, but and I think I blame that on college days and college kid appetite and budget, but back east, I feel like they do Italian food way better justice.
Did you grow up on the East Coast or where did you grow
No,
up at?
I'm from here.
Oh, okay,
Like
okay.
like really from here. But no, I visited the East Coast a lot because so my family, like I said, my family's from Belize, Central America. Half my family went to New York first. And or if his maybe just about everyone except my uncle went to New York first. And then when the dust settled, half of my family ended up in California. Um, but like one of my cousins who I grew up with, we spent summers in Belize together. Like one of my best friends lives in Brooklyn. And so we'll go visit every now and again. We'll go on vacation together. Um,
Shout out to your
yeah.
cousin in Brooklyn.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Tyrone.
Hi, Tyrone.
Um, but no, that's why I think he's kind of like helped me navigate a little bit of the East Coast a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
And it's just a certain cultures are a lot more rich and diverse out there.
Yeah.
Same thing with him out here. Like they don't have the same spicy, flavorful Mexicans
I was
that
like,
we
what's up with all these
have.
Mexicans in
And
California?
well, he used to always say the Spanish. And I'm like,
Oh, the
everybody's
Spanish? Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's how they refer to us. And
Yeah.
I'm not Mexican either, but still, I get it.
Where's your family from?
El Salvador.
Oh, we're neighbors.
No jodamos.
Oh my
Yeah.
No, but yeah, ultimately I'm from here. Born in LA, but I like I've said Riverside for so long it feels weird saying Hoopa Valley now because
Hmm.
places are growing and developing, but Hoopa Valley.
Um, what about salbutes?
I don't know what that is offhand.
Like a Belizean dish? Salbutes?
Is it? I have to
Mike is
Google that.
Belizean. Mike, my production partner.
Okay. Have I met Mike? I don't know
Uh,
if I've met Mike.
maybe at the Cinco de Mayo event? Maybe.
Maybe. That was like all of your friends though. Everybody I met was like, "Oh, George and Diego?"
I just slide into everybody's DMs, be like, please show up and make me look cool.
I love it. It worked.
Yes.
Great event.
Well, thank you for helping me.
So boot this. I don't know. I feel like you're testing my Belizean right now.
It's,
What is it actually?
it's like a puffy. Okay, so you've had a sope, right?
Yes.
Okay. So imagine that, but it's more flaky and puffy, where the inside is almost like air, right? So
Mhm.
the same consistency, right,
Mhm.
of a sope, but it's not flat like a sope where there's nothing. It's just straight up masa,
Mhm.
like the inside's like airy. So it's
Mhm.
more of a puffy masa, and then on top of it, it'll have chicken in red sauce, like tomato sauce with all the spices, like shredded chicken, almost like a sope, and then it'll
Mhm.
have pickled cabbage, and then onions, and then queso fresco.
Yeah, we put pickled cabbage on everything. I have to ask my mom.
Yeah,
I feel like I've had all Belizean food, but now I'm wondering
it's his
if
favorite dish.
that's what we call it.
It
I
could be
don't
called something
know.
else. That's the weird
Yeah.
part about us, right? We all call different
Mm.
things,
But it's the same thing.
but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Salbutes. I'm gonna ask him how it's spelled. Or I'm gonna look it up. Actually, you know what?
Yeah. I'm
We have
like,
phones. What are we
let's
talking about?
see.
Hold on.
Now I'm wondering.
Salbutes. this. Let's see.
And all my Belizean family's gonna be like, Madam Yankee.
Yep. Salbut. Salbut. A salbut is a puffed, deep fried tortilla that is topped with lettuce, sliced avocado, pulled chicken or turkey, tomato, and pickled red onion.
Oh. I mean, I know I've seen this, but it really just looks like,
Almost like a tostada. Like some people would just,
yeah.
Yeah. So his mom makes them when his mom comes,
I feel
and
like I would just call this a taco.
call it what?
A taco.
Oh no, but
Sopes.
yeah, it's like almost like a sope. Yeah, I guess. But so Tyrone,
Panuchos.
we're not Spanish.
He'll
um,
love that.
a friend, a Mexican guy said all these Latins one time. I'm like, what are you talking about? All these Latins? Like,
Latins.
yeah,
That could mean a lot of things.
I know, but I said, obviously he uses words oddly sometimes. Um, but Spanish, Latins. On the
Hmm.
East Coast, they will call us that, Spanish, Latins.
Well, that's
And
their vernacular
yeah,
too.
that's
So
what I'm saying.
it's like regional, but at
Yeah.
the same time, not, because we're all so close anyways and
Mhm.
similar that it really just depends on where you are and who you're talking to.
Yeah, so like if I was in New York or if I was on the East Coast, I'd probably be considered like the assumption wouldn't be that I'm Mexican. The assumption would be I'm Puerto Rican, Dominican,
Mhm.
light skin, Puerto Rican, Dominican, whatever it is. But you're out
Mhm.
here, it's like you're automatically Mexican.
Automatically.
Automatically Mexican. I end up in Florida, then I'm automatically Cuban.
Mhm.
Like so it doesn't bother me. I don't care.
I
Yeah.
mean, America.
Um, so I'm gonna ask you some questions. I want to do some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Let's see.
As long as it's not salbutes.
I know you can answer that. Oh my God, you broke all the Belizeans'
I
heart.
did. My go-to is panadas though. I eat panadas like,
Panadas?
well, we say panadas, but
Uh-huh.
it's like,
Empanadas?
it is like empanadas, but it's like same concept, but a little bit smaller and fried harder, I guess, where it's crispy. It's the closest thing I've seen, like at some Mexican restaurants, they'll say dorado. Dorado.
Dorado?
Dorado? Yeah, I can't roll my R's.
You
But
can't?
mm, I just say it faster. But yeah, like our closed shell deep fried taco
I want to try one.
with
Um,
pickled cabbage, onions, and
do you
it's
guys
like,
pickle your cabbage with vinegar or with lemon?
I'm pretty sure it's with vinegar.
Okay.
But I feel like there's a splash of lemon on everything too.
Yeah, because my mom does both. So
Yeah.
some depending on the foods that she's making, it'll be either vinegar or lemon, or it'll be a combination of both, like trying to get a certain like flavor.
Mhm. The like combination of the two.
You've had pupusas, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Okay. All right, good. We can still be friends.
Whew, those are
Um,
addicting.
so it could be a short answer, it could be a long answer. Um, I'm not doing no gotcha stuff, right? So,
Okay.
um, who has it easier, men or women?
Nobody? Men.
Why?
Well, it depends on the man. There's I instinctually, as a woman, think of all of the things that women are responsible for and our ability to multitask. Um, but then I think that the black man's plight in America, they definitely don't have it easier. But generally, I think men.
Okay. Um, are lifeguards attractive?
I haven't looked at a lifeguard in so long. I like think
What are
of
you talking about?
Baywatch.
David Hasselhoff. He's like so handsome.
Not quite my handsome,
um,
but
yeah, I don't know. It's just a question. I'm scrolling. All right.
okay.
Let's see. Do you like the smell of gasoline?
I don't mind it.
Yeah. It's there's certain chemical smells I think people don't mind. But gas is not one of them that I mind. It's like it's not a bad thing either for
I don't
myself.
mind a lot of chemical smells now that I'm thinking about it. Like, I'm, dare I say, bleach doesn't smell bad to me. It actually is a little refreshing if a
Hmm.
house is clean. Um, but then there are like very toxic smells that are horrible, like the toxic alleys of certain communities, like when you can smell it in the air.
Yeah, since COVID, my sense of smell has diminished like exponentially.
Oh, my husband says that too.
Bad, 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 bad. And so I'm very sensitive to smell. I've always been very sensitive to smell, but since COVID, it's not returned like the way that it was before. Um, and so a lot of things smell like chemicals. A lot. A lot of
Mm,
things taste like chemicals still. I mean, I got COVID 2 years ago or something like that. A Coke tastes rotten to me. Like I thought I was
that's
drinking
a
a bad
sign.
Coke. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
like your husband loves burgers, right?
Yes.
I love having a burger with a cold Coke. Like that was just the best.
Mhm.
I can't now. I can't have a Coke. It tastes like poop.
Mhm.
It tastes
Mm.
rotten. It tastes like there's something wrong with it. It tastes all I taste is chemicals and it sucks. Um
My husband would tell you to drink Dr. Pepper, but
yes, that's what I started to do.
I love it.
Dr. Pepper and Mr. Pibb or like root beer. All my
Yeah.
life I've hated Dr.
Yeah.
Pepper, but now I could taste it and I'm like, it doesn't taste like chemicals. It tastes like, you know, the way it's supposed to, I guess.
No, we love Dr. Pepper at our I think every, like every Black dad has, like, a small affinity for Dr. Pepper.
Maybe I'm black too. Yeah, just
I think so, on the
yeah, on
inside.
the inside. Um, what does a person need to be happy?
Um, I think it varies from person to person,
Great answer.
but I think that there's some basics, um, like self-love, um, a feeling of purpose, and like they're accomplishing that purpose, and love from other people. I think we're here together for a reason, and that directly contributes to your happiness.
I've been asked that question many times. How are you so confident? How do you love yourself? Like, how do you let things roll off your back, or at least apparently, on social media, it looks like I do. Um,
On social media, it looks like everyone does,
right. So my
kind of.
question to you would be is how does someone gain self-love if they don't necessarily have it? Um, is that something that you can work?
Therapy?
Well, I mean, what do you do when you're not feeling peachy?
Um,
Or are you always feeling peachy?
no. Oh my gosh, life. I do think therapy helps. But I think, see, again, it varies from person to person, right? Like for me, I instantly draw on like feelings of nostalgia and like my youth and like me and my dad. Probably one of the reasons why I love food so much. We used to eat some of the best food together. Like, and I can hold my own when it comes to eating, like as a kid all the way till now. Um, so comfort food is super helpful, but I don't know. I think it's a lot of different factors, and I think it's a lot of the people that you surround yourself with, the energy you surround yourself with, that contributes to it. Did that answer your question?
No.
Ask me one more time. I kind of
Where's your
lost.
dad from?
Well, when I say my dad, I'm referring to my stepdad. Both of my mom and my biological dad are both from Belize.
Hmm.
But my stepdad is good old-fashioned black man from California, like generations and generations back in Carson. Um,
What's his favorite food?
he's a meat and potatoes
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
So, like, fond memories of you and your dad were memories of eating, right? Like
Yeah. And
breaking
hanging
bread.
out, traveling.
You guys traveled a lot when you were a kid? Like trips or even if it was local?
Yeah. I didn't realize how much we traveled until like as an adult. I've seen a lot of people's different experiences, and a lot of people don't really travel as much. And I think part of it too though is just because my family is from Belize, and there were a lot of entire summers spent in Belize. Um Sometimes Thanksgiving or Christmas here and there or spring break, but that level of travel. And then my stepdad loved to travel too. So like in good old fashioned 80s road trips, like we drove to Washington often, Arizona, just different kind of station wagon endeavors and randomness.
That's so cool. It's funny because I remember we took some road trips to Texas, Yosemite, Frisco, like um and it's like three boys in the back fighting.
Whew.
Yeah, yeah. But what you're saying is the nostalgia of those memories helps you when you're having difficult moments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like reflecting on, I guess, those memories helps pull you out of difficult situations.
Yeah. And just remembering how far I've come. I think those moments, I don't know, because when I think about like depression and anxiety in particular, it's like you're teetering between like the past and what was, and angst over what's to come in the future and not being able to control it. And sometimes you have to have those moments to be more present. And I think that's kind of what grounds me. Like, I have to have those moments of nostalgia so that I can be more present and thankful and gracious for where I am right now. I don't know that there's any one particular thing. Netflix and nachos, like binging on Queen Charlotte. I don't know.
Who's Queen Charlotte?
The latest Netflix Bridgerton series.
Oh, okay. Um,
I'm usually more of an action girl though, so any action movie.
an action movie that I've seen recently. I haven't, but I've seen Fubar.
Was
Like,
that good?
no, no, no. Like I've seen the preview of it, and
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
oh, okay, maybe I'll watch that.
That didn't grab my attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it gets to a point where some actors make certain films or shows, and you just watch it because of the nostalgia piece of who it is,
Mhm.
but it's no longer like great. I'm just like, well,
Well,
I
see,
mean, I'll
what's
watch it.
funny, I felt like that because I have this connection with J-Lo because of Selena.
Okay.
And so when, what is it, The Mother or Mother came out, I was like, I don't know if it's, but then I realized that Omari Hardwick is in it and there's action. So I watched it the first day it came out and I was pleasantly surprised. I was
Really?
like, okay, J-Lo's working on her range,
Hmm. Okay.
but I like the action.
What's it about?
You have to watch it. It is
I won't.
her as a, you won't? Okay.
No.
Well, she is, I guess, like an assassin who ends up falling in love and having a baby and then has to come back. I'm not doing the story justice, but has to give up her baby, and former colleagues of hers in her assassin life come back for her now baby
Grown.
teenager,
Mm.
and she has to go back to the assassin lifestyle to protect her offspring that doesn't know that she's the mom. Well, she does. She's a smart chick, but good action.
Sounds interesting. I'm gonna watch
Something to
it
break
tonight.
up the J Lo IMDb series of movies.
Yeah. Um, it's just I watch boring stuff. I know I do. I watch corny stuff. Like, but it makes me happy. And I think once you the part about movies sometimes is obviously it's subjective to the individual receiving it and whatever it is that you want to watch, but sometimes you just have to look at it for what it is, which is just entertainment.
Yeah,
And as long as you
definitely.
buy into it,
Yeah.
then, I could watch something so stupid and really enjoy it because I'm watching it like a kid.
Yeah.
Like as long as I could put my mind there, I'm totally with you, dude. I'm
Yeah.
totally with you. Um, so for business though, what would you say are three things someone could do to, I don't know, not necessarily maybe find goals, but get them out of a rut? Do you have anything that
Mm.
helps get you on the business side out of a rut, or is it still the nostalgia thing and perspective of how far you've come and then that helps you move forward?
It is that perspective on the business side. Um, but I think it's a little bit more because when you think of a rut, right? It's a little bit more of the perspective of where you want to go, and less of the nostalgia end of it, and more, well, what goals do I have? Like, what goals have I accomplished for myself? And that reassessment so that you can be more present, but it's a little bit more of the future self and projecting in that sense.
Um, I think it's a lot of us fail to recognize our accomplishments, right?
Mm,
So it's to say, what you're saying is, look how far I've come,
mhm.
right? To remind yourself of that. You've accomplished quite a lot, but we don't think that we have. So it's like having the proper perspective because we're our own worst critic, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
I get pats on the back for certain things and I'm like, no, dude, stop. And everybody else could see it, but then I don't. So it's
Mhm.
really taking self inventory. That's what I would say. It's like
Yeah.
really self inventory. What have I done? And not necessarily comparing yourself to others, but who you were yesterday, right?
Mhm.
And then figuring out those future goals, like what are those future goals, and then figuring out what you need to do to be able to get there. Um, everything I always tell my mom, it's so easy. Like, how did you do this? I'm like, I don't know, it's easy. She goes, your answer to everything is it's easy. And she goes, and you know it's not easy. I'm like, no, I know it's not easy. But if someone else can do it, then so can I.
Yeah.
If someone else can be whatever it is, and that means I could do it too. If I
Mhm.
want to learn it, I can learn it. If I want to tinker with cars, I want to, mess around with video, or I want to go into insurance. Okay, you have to get a license, you have to study,
Mhm.
someone has left you clues. Now are you willing to execute at the level that they did? Maybe they had an advantage, maybe they didn't.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe they're younger than you, maybe they're smarter than you. Sure, there's a bunch of differences, but if someone else can do it, so can you. Um,
I do think that, but my approach is very different because ultimately, yes, it is easy. And that's where I end up. But I overthink and overanalyze everything. And I have to get to the point where I'm like, this is easy. Just do XYZ. Like, and I think that's the hard part for a lot of people is really the execution of it.
it's analysis of
Oh,
paralysis
goodness.
or paralysis analysis, whatever it is.
Yeah, I have that.
I think a lot of us do in a lot of different areas and things, but Um, I saw this. Okay, this is gonna sound so stupid. Um, I was watching cartoons yesterday, like at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Cartoons are not stupid, for the record.
Okay, so I
Keep
was watching
going.
cartoons. Watching, it was a DC comic cartoon, and one of the characters got killed. Like violent, they were cursing in it. So, anyways, Wonder Woman stabs him in the back and then kicks him over a ledge. So he's
Yes.
falling.
This is Sparta.
Yeah, he's falling into the fire, right? It's this guy that's a demon from Constantine. I forgot his name. And so as he's falling, he says, I am so happy. I lived a good life.
Damn. That's
Like,
perspective.
and so I'm sitting there at 1 o'clock in the morning thinking, damn, I gotta do this WeRip thing tomorrow. And this guy just made me start thinking about life. Cartoons,
Mhm.
right? Like perspective. What I see is very different than just the entertainment or, piece. And it's like, am I living a good life? Am I? So he says, I lived a good life. I had fun. That was the end of it. I'm like, am I having fun in life? Am I living a good life? And so when you get into that analysis of paralysis of whether I should do it, not do it, at the end of the day, it's like, try it, have fun. You might fail. My mom would never pick me up as a child if I fell and I cried. My mom was like, stand up, dust yourself off, clean yourself up, go play again. There was no, we're 80s babies, right? So it's like, there's no like, "Uh," like,
Yeah, you don't get coddled.
no, go. Like, why do I have like this
Mm,
big scar here? I have 7 here. I've split my lip completely open, 2 scars on this side, scars all over my head, hands,
mhm.
everywhere. And I think a lot of us do
Yes.
because, yeah, it's life, right?
Mhm.
So I would encourage people just to try. I mean, it's hard to try to believe in yourself, but like at the end of the day, you just gotta. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
what's the worst that can happen? You're
Yeah.
gonna mess up. You're gonna fail.
And Lord knows we've done that before.
It's the cliche thing, right? So, um, what if there was a chance of success? Would you take that chance? Or what if there was a guarantee of not accomplishing anything? The guarantee is that if you don't do anything, you're guaranteed to not succeed,
Mhm.
right? Like if there's a choice, like I'm going to do something or I'm not going to do something. So if you do it, there's a chance. If you don't do it, there's absolutely no chance.
Yeah.
One is guaranteed, one gives you a possibility. Why don't you take the chance?
Yeah.
And so, it's tough though. I get it. I get why people don't do it. I just figure it out, man. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, everything is figure outable.
Figure outable. All right. Last question.
Oh, wait, we didn't make that very rapid.
No, no, no. It doesn't have to be rapid.
Okay.
I'll give you 3 rapid fire questions.
Okay. We'll make them rapid this time.
All right. Let me do rapid fire
Oh, wow. That makes them random.
questions. Oh, duh, I gotta turn off airplane mode. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
Of
me and for
course.
thinking of me to invite. Your space is pretty dope. I like it. I like
Um,
your artistic outlets.
thank you. Um, it's I've had these like I didn't want to finish them. Like, are they not done? Self-critique. Like, I don't know. All the angst and doubts that others have that people say like you don't appear to not have that. It's like, dude, you don't know my life, bro. You don't know the struggles I go through.
Well, it just manifests differently for everyone.
Oh yeah. I know how to I know how to manifest mine very differently. Um, so
This isn't a good sign, guys.
oh,
He's laughing already.
love or friendship,
Love.
morning or evening,
Morning.
fresh food or fried food.
Oh, fresh food.
What is the punchline to your favorite joke?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite joke.
Me either.
That's random.
What is the kindest thing someone ever did for you?
Um, kindness. I've had so many like random acts of kindness that and gestures all the time. I don't know if I can pinpoint one. I feel like I've whether or not I knew it, I've always been surrounded by a village and there have always been people looking out for me.
That's important.
Yeah. I don't always feel that way, but it's there.
Perspective.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, that's what it is. Well, that's not the answer to everything, but a lot of times we feel alone, but we're not.
Exactly.
It's like you're not, man. Um, not rudely, but maybe depending on who you ask. Sometimes people will tell me things, um, and as a friend, I ask them the question, kind of as a dick, to say like, "Do you think you're special?" Like,
Ugh.
honestly, there's seven
Yeah,
billion people in the world.
I know, but not everybody wants to hear that,
But it's
George.
I get that's what I'm saying, as a dick.
Yeah,
That's a
I
total dick
know.
move. But it's also to say perspective, man. Like bring this into perspective. Get out of your funk.
Yeah.
Others have been through this. Like what, billions of people have lived before us?
Yeah, we're not the first and we're not the last.
Billions of people are gonna live after you. Billions of people are alive right now. This situation, this turmoil, this angst, this emotion you're feeling, do you not think I haven't felt that?
Yeah.
Or let's say my brother or Mike or whoever like some a lot of times we don't necessarily vocalize how we're feeling,
Mhm.
but when you talk to someone about it, like, oh, I was feeling that way too. Like we're humans, we're creatures of habit. Some of those, repeat themselves amongst many of us. You're not
Yeah.
that special. Um, so don't feel alone. There's plenty of people there to support you, to love you, to care about you. Just it's hard to get that perspective. It's
Yeah.
hard, especially when you're going through it. It's fucking tough.
In the
Well,
thick of it, oh my goodness.
it's hard. It's so difficult, but I understand it. But like, come on, wake up. Let's go. Come on,
Yeah.
let's go. And the last question I want to ask you is, what trait most defines who you are?
I'm stubborn as shit. Good or bad, but I'm stubborn.
I think it's good,
Mm,
but it's also bad.
yeah.
But it's also bad.
Oh my gosh. This is so dope. Has anyone ever interviewed you? I want
No,
to come back to do your rapid fire.
I'm down.
That's not so rapid.
I'm down. Yeah, of course, absolutely.
I love it.
I'll um I'll edit some clips. I'll do some clippable moments. I'll find them. I'll like the whole recording. Well,
Is long?
yeah, it's 2 hours.
Do you really, really watch it? Or
Hmm.
you like,
Yeah,
oh wow.
2x speed. Yeah, I usually watch like when I watch videos, just my impatience.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta watch it at 2x speed. Yeah, so well, basically the first thing is chunking everything together,
Mhm.
syncing audio and video. Once it's synced, then it's watching and adding markers through clippable moments. So it's watching the whole thing and it's like, oh, she said this. This is like this. And then after that, once you find it, then now it's taking that out and then doing the proper edits so that it's,
Can I come be your intern?
of course.
This part of the so I'm not the in front of the camera person,
Mhm.
but this part of the process, like the editing, that seems dope.
It's I was talking to my brother Mike about it. Well, you met Mike, right? My other brother Mike?
Yeah, I met
Yeah.
your other brother. That's not the same production mic though, right?
No.
All these
And another
mics.
Mike. I have three mics in my life.
Brother Mike, production Mike, and believer Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so I was telling him that as I've gone through this, it's like I'm very methodical in systems. That's one of
Mhm.
the reasons why I have success, let's say, in our business.
Mhm.
Like the whole thing of what the clients are going to ask and all that stuff. So part of this whole thing is finding a system that works, that I enjoy,
Mhm.
that allows me to do this at scale, allows me to record and
Yeah.
batch. But it's learning. It's
Mhm.
learning and it's learning how the software works and how to change the lighting and how to do the editing and how to do the cuts and but I enjoy it. It's art.
It sounds so rewarding too. Like afterwards, I think that's probably that process you just described. That's what I like the most about college. I don't
Mm,
use my degree for shit,
yeah.
but and I don't know if you know, we haven't really talked about like our before life very
Mm,
much, but um, I went to UCLA and this huge campus, felt kind of lost, or I did feel very lost in the beginning. But the process and the systems that you develop, like, and at scale by like the end of my college experience, I think that's probably like the one thing I learned
well,
inside and out.
it's that's what they say about college. Some people that it just expands your mind, right? Like
Yeah.
different ways of thinking. It's not the education
Hmm.
itself. For some, yes, but for others, it's the expansion of like, okay, you can actually accomplish this. There is that commitment and how to help you think so
Hmm.
that when you do graduate, you start your career, it elevates your cognitive abilities or whatever.
Yeah. Wow. So how long does that process take when you're like matching the audio, the video, and cutting and mixing and DJing?
Yeah, in the beginning, a long time. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't know how to figure it out. I'm like, a very long time, like hours. I
Yeah,
didn't have systems in place to be able to do it. Now, I would say probably at most an hour. At most.
that's dope. And you didn't have someone like yourself to intern to figure it out. Like you truly figured it out on your own, trial and error.
Yeah. Like just
Yeah.
like I have a friend who's uh well, I have a lot of friends that do this like professionally. And then they're telling me over the phone. And I'm like, part of my whole thing is like I don't like to bother people. So I don't want to call,
Okay.
right? And my whole thing is let me run up against the wall as many times as I can. I'll eventually knock it down.
Hmm.
But if I'm hitting this wall that many times and it hasn't fallen down, okay, now I got to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind asking for help.
Yeah.
And so my friend, um, shout out to Joe, I love you, Jolo the Cholo,
Yay, Jolo the cello.
Jolo the Cholo. Um, he's given me a lot of tips, and I remember like when I used to film on my phone, he's like, shoot at this speed, right? Shoot because you have to change your settings on your phone.
Hmm.
Shoot in 4K, shoot at this speed. If you want it to look like movie quality, shoot at this speed.
Mm.
Um, and then it was like you have to get mics. He goes, "Hey, I'm starting to like the videos, but I recommend that you get a mic."
Hmm.
Um, and then it was like, "Hey, I recommend that you get a light. Right? You have to have lighting."
Mm.
And so he's throughout the years he's been giving me like different tips. The difference is I implement them.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have asked me, I talked about this on TikTok yesterday. A lot of people have messaged me, "Hey, I love your setup. Hey, what kind of mics are those? What kind of light is that?" They're asking me about my camera, and I've given people these tips like 6 months ago, a year ago. I
Mm,
s- to this date, I haven't seen a video. I haven't seen a
yeah.
post. Like, and these are people I know, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, stop asking me. Go do, because now you're gonna ask me again, and I'm not gonna give you the answer, not because I'm a jerk, but because it's a waste of my breath at that
Yeah.
moment, right? And so
Because when you get free advice, if you're not using it,
it's like, hey, what camera? It's this camera. Go buy this memory card. I'll send links
yeah.
to people like, oh, you can use just like I would to anybody. I want to help
Mm-hmm.
them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But um, then if you're not doing it, then you just wasted 15 minutes of my time, asking me
Yeah.
questions, me responding. Um, but I'm still not done learning. I gotta learn a lot more, dude. I gotta
Well,
learn a
there's
lot more.
always stuff to learn, though.
Yeah, but I wish I already knew it. I hate the process.
I
I
think
hate the process. I am a let's get it like people say enjoy the process. No, I hate it. I've always hated it. I don't enjoy the
I say the
process.
same thing. I feel you completely. Like, let's just get there.
Let's just get there. Let's just get there type of guy. Like, let's go. But um it's not.
But life is the process.
Yeah, it
That's what I'm
is.
trying to embrace these days.
It is. It's just it's tough when you have like a certain personality, you know,
Definitely.
to accept that. And I've learned patience throughout the years. I've learned
Mm,
patience. I was a very impatient as a young man. I still am very impatient, but I've learned to hide it. Like I gotta hide my impatience. Like I definitely need to.